Hello guys, and welcome back to another Map First Impressions video. Today we're going to take a look at Mountain Valley Farm by Old Guy Farmer. This is the Extra Hard Homestead Edition of Mountain Valley Farm. And what you're going to find is that what makes this map very unique over pretty much any other map that I have seen to date is that this is a super hard edit. It's intended to be played on hard mode. It's also intended to be played with seasons. This map was previously in a limited private release, but has been reworked and actually made even more difficult, and is now open to anyone to download. That is available to play on PC. This is a PC only version map. The map can be found over at PCSG, and there will be a link to the map in the description. I believe you currently need to be a member of PCSG in order to download this map. So if you're having difficulty getting an error when you click on the link, just sign up for a PCSG account. Trust me, you won't regret that you have, and then you'll be able to get to the map. So this map was also profiled on Mark DuPont's channel, and I'll have a link to his channel where he did a series using the extra hard edit. Also, GrizzlyBearSims has a series using the extra hard edit, and Old Guy Farmer himself has done some videos or some work on this map, and I'll have a link to his description. So let's go ahead and jump on into the map. We're going to pick our gator like we normally do. We're actually going to go ahead and pick seasons because this map is meant to be played with seasons. So we'll go ahead and do our tour with seasons. And we're going to pick up this cool little drone. So let's take a look at the log as the map loads up. So the map loads very fast. In fact, it's already ready to go. You can see there are no log errors at all in the map. So let's fast forward time so we can get to some daylight. And while we're waiting for daylight to come up, let's go ahead and take a look at the map itself. So it's a fairly small map, and the first thing you'll notice is that there are 7 fields on the perimeter of the road here, and we don't own a single field. In fact, there's no land that we own from the outset other than what's up here on the top of this little plateau. We have our standard crops on this map, and there's no reason to turn off plowing because these are all basically there are no defined fields. Let me just slow time down here since we now have sunlight. So since the map has no true defined fields, you're going to have to plow anything that you want to plant. So if you want to put wheat, you're going to have to plow a field and make wheat. Basically use the create fields function in a plow up the size, the shape of fields that you want, and then prepare it and plant it, fertilize it, and there you go. There's your field. Going forward, you now have a field that you have made. There are some predefined buyable land around the edge of the map here, and for all intents and purposes we'll call them fields, but they're not actually defined in any way as fields, and that's why they're showing up as not needing to be plowed. If you look, everything shows up as being planted in grass. So if you do want to plant any crop, you're going to have to make the field by yourself in the shape and size that you want. So you can see there's one main sell point on the map, and no matter what mode you play in, while the map is intended to be played on hard mode, if you play on easy mode, normal mode, or hard mode, you will not get any crops in storage at the start. So this is exactly how you start, no matter how you what mode you pick. There is one main sell point for your crops on the map. There is a sell point for wood chips and logs. There's a silage sell point at the livestock yard. And since we have seasons turned on, the hay, straw, and grass sell point basically has zeroed out the prices for loose hay, straw, and grass. And that is because Seasons controls that and basically will not let you sell loose material. If you're going to sell straw, grass, or hay, it must be baled first. And that is a Seasons thing. So if we look at our vehicles, this is where I would typically show you what vehicles you start with and how many hours they have on them, how much the daily maintenance might be. But you see this screen is blank. That's because you start with nothing. There's no vehicles that you start with. You don't even start with your pickup truck. All you start with is yourself and $15,000. So you're going to have to basically either take out a loan or buy some super cheap mods to get started. And the only real way to make money with Seasons on in spring is to do logging. So let's take a look. As you said, we start out with $15,000. We're already $85,000 in the hole because we do have a loan already. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to go ahead and take out a loan so we can buy some animals. And speaking of animals, you'll see that the only animal available on this map are cows. So there is no chance to own sheep or pigs on this map. Okay, and that's it. So let's take a look at our starting equipment. Well, wait, there isn't any starting equipment. Right there, we own nothing. We have owned nothing. Nothing is leased. So we're going to go ahead and lease up our gator so we'll have something to drive around in. And we're going to go ahead and lease up this little drone so we have something to take a look at the map with. And while we're getting started, let's go ahead and take a look at the main farm area. So we start here on the porch of our farmhouse, and like I said, our main farm is up here on this little plateau. Okay, so down here we have a pond with our outhouse. There is a water fill point here to get free water from the pond. And the first thing to note is there's a fairly steep hill coming up to the main farm, and this hill has caught out some players of this map. It's much steeper than it looks, and since you're playing with super hard mode here, you probably don't have the most powerful equipment, and you may run into a scenario where you're not able to pull what you want up this hill. So you kind of got to be careful what you take down the hill and what you use to pull it up with. So let's take a look around. So over here we've got some vehicle storage, and I believe these have tip triggers. Yep. So tip collisions, not tip triggers. So these have tip collisions, so you could tip loose material in here, or crops that you have may have harvested. We've got just general vehicle storage over here. The same. We've got a nice vehicle storage over here. Here we have our customized bay with some nice decorations. All Guy Farmer really goes into detail with putting in various decorations and other things to kind of liven up the map. Here we've got a some rundown equipment. We've got our chickens just roaming around, so we do start with chickens at least. Got a nice loading ramp here, so if you need to load or unload equipment off of a flatbed trailer. Our eggs, as you can see, we've got one egg already. Our eggs will appear on or around this bale. Here's our manure point for our cows. This is bale storage, and all of our buildings are Seasons snow mast prepared. So if you put bales in here, in fact, let's go ahead and pull up SS add snow. Let's go ahead and add a few layers of snow. Let's wait a few seconds. Alright, so we have snow on the map. So as you can see, this area has been prepared with a snow mask. Let's go ahead and run on over here. This area has been prepared, as is this area. And we'll come over here one more, check this out. But one thing to note is that the roof line is right here, but the snow blows in to this area. So just be aware that the snow mask may reach into the building beyond the roof line because snow may blow in. Like I said, this is a hard edit. This is not intended for the faint of heart. This is really intended for the people that say hard mode is still too easy. Why don't you guys come up with something that's actually challenging? Well, here you go. Use this map because you're going to find this map a wee bit challenging. Alright, this is where you would unload or buy your cows. Okay? And you'll notice that our cow price is not normal. The normal price for cows is $5,000. This is $5,049. Now you may say, well, that's not too much of a difference. And it isn't. But if you're not familiar with seasons, as you go through the season and through the year, your animal prices will fluctuate. They'll go up, they'll go down. So obviously it's in your best interest to plan out when you need to buy animals or when you want to sell animals to be kind of a opportune moment. I want to point out this little palette. This is a feature a la Mark DuPont, who was playing on this, and he basically in his gameplay he would move can I jump up here? There we go. He would I think there was a barrel here. These are too heavy for me to move, but I think there was a barrel here that he would sit right here, because in theory the cows could just walk out. So kind of a nod to Mark's series. We have now a movable pallet that we can let's try to prop it up against the oh well, you guys get the point that we can put a pallet here and it will keep our cows from walking out. The trigger on these gates is also fairly narrow, so if you're too far away, you can see I'm clicking, nothing's happening. You got to get pretty much up in there in order to open the gates. So inside here we have our water trough, and we have our grass trough. We have our slurry around back. And we do have a milk tank here, but is there a milk trigger? I'm not seeing one. So I'd say about the only thing that's not hard on this map is the fact that it looks like milk will sell at midnight, because I'm not seeing a milk fill trigger. Alright, that's basically the farm. There are 2 silage pits up here that we'll go ahead and take a look at. Alright, so here's our 2 silage pits. They are also masked with snow, with the snow mask. Now let's go in here and remove the snow. Let's do that a few times. We'll get rid of the snow layers. Alright, so let's explore some more of this plateau area. So you'll see that in here we've got what appears on the PDA to be a big open grass area. But what we find in reality is that this whole area is spotted with trees. Okay? So if you want to use this upper area, which I strongly suggest you do, let's do this one more time. This upper area is the only land that you technically own. Okay? So if you want to plant anything in this upper area, you're going to need to clear these trees first. Alright? So that's where you get your money starting out. either you borrow money and you figure some way of getting by until summertime, or you basically cut these trees down to make room for a field here to then plant something. You'll see that our grass is short because on seasons, if you're not familiar, you start out with grass in a harvested state. So you pretty much have to wait for the grass to grow, quite literally, before you can do anything. So there's a fair bit of land up here if you just clear it and can work it. So you could easily have four modest-sized fields up here once you clear all these trees and plow up some fields. Again, this map is really cool because you get to define your own fields. So if you're someone that loves perfectly square fields, well, you can make them perfectly square. If you're someone that can't stand perfectly square fields, well, you can go crazy and make whatever shape field you want. I mean, I guess if you wanted to leave most of these trees in here and just cut around most of the trees to make a weird shaped field, that's fine too. So I'm going to go over here just to give you a little overview of the town. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and hit reset on our gator and show you where the reset point is. So here's the main town, and in theory you could run to town on foot if you wanted to. In Mark's series he did that quite often because he was playing the poor farmer and would run to town to get things as opposed to drive to town on his little slow tractor. Alright, so let's go ahead and reset our gator. And let's go ahead and jump in him. So you'll see the reset point is here on the main farm, right by this bulldozer, right by the chickens. Alright, let's zoom on out. And we'll try to do a little bit of driving around the upper area here at this higher elevation. And we're going to do a little drone tour before we're done also. So, but you can kind of see where you already have some clearings that you could define with fields by plowing them. You could easily expand those areas by cutting down some trees. Okay, so you've got some kind of easy areas that can be made into fields, and there are some more difficult areas. We're gonna have to go into cab until I can get to a clearing. And then there are some more. Here's a nice area that's kind of defined, but then there's a fair bit of trees back here that are in the way. You could clear all of this also to get a fair patch of land to plant in. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and drive on down to the main road. Drive down the hill here. Let's go ahead and look at the pond area. So we've got our outhouse. We've got a nice dusk to dawn light there with our water fill trigger. We can sit here and eat our lunch by the little pond looking at our rowboat. We can sit here and dangle our feet into the water as we kind of reflect back on our day's work if we want. Or if we want, we could just take a jump on in the pond and take a little swim, cool off. So as you see, there is traffic on the map. Traffic does flow in only one direction, which is rather convenient. because traffic does move at a pretty good clip. And you'll see that there's a whole bunch of grass and trees on the outer edge of the map on the other side of the road. There is one way to get to the outer edge of the map, and I'm not going to point it out because this is hard mode. This map's meant to be hard, so why should I go and point it out to you? I know where it is, but why should I point it out to you when you can just kind of find it yourself? So that's a little nugget of hard to try to figure out where and how you get access to all of that grass and trees on the outside edge of the map. So if we'll just drive around the map this way, and we'll stop at the first field that we come to, which looks like it will be Field 5, or Area 5 should I say, because these are not technically defined fields, so they don't show up as being plowable. You can't just drop a plow in there and say hire a worker and go to town. You're going to have to first make the field before you can use any hired workers, and hired workers might not work. I don't know. I've never tried to hire a worker to plow a field that I made from scratch. So as you see, field number 5 is 2.26 hectares. It's $182,000. There's no missions. There will never be missions on this map. So if you want this space, you're going to have to plop down $182,000. And now what makes this edit even harder than the version that Mark DuPont and GrizzlyBearSims used is that on their maps, most of this land down here was unclaimed land. Nobody owned it, or they owned it. Technically, you could just use it. So on this edit, this is owned by an AI farmer. Now he's not going to plant anything in it. It's planted in grass. There's no missions, so you can never make it cheaper. But you're not going to be able to roll down here and plow this up without having to pay for it. So the only land that you can use without having to pay for it is the land that's up there on that plateau area, on that knoll. Alright, so here's field 4. Again, there are some random trees kind of growing into the field workspace that you can clear out and make that more of a workable field area. But there you see a nice little area over there that you could plow up and put something in maybe, or just harvest that grass if you can only figure out how to get over there. So here's some more defined areas, fields 3 and 4. Okay. Now on the version that Mark DuPont and GrizzlyBearSims used, there were 2 defined fields on the map, and they did have missions. So on this version, those fields are gone. The ability to do missions are gone. So let's roll on in here to town. And the first structure that we're seeing here directly in front of us is the co-op. This is technically our farm silo. So there, you remember, there was no silo on the main farm. There's no way of storing crops on the main farm other than doing tip anywhere into one of those buildings that had tip collisions. So if you want to store grain, you're going to have to drive it down here, tip it into this structure, and that's how you're going to get your grain. You can fill from right here. That's where you can get your grain out. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look on over here. We've got our gas station, so you can fill up here with fuel. And you may notice there is no fuel tank at the main farm. There's no fuel point. So if you want to get fuel, you're going to have to come down here and fill up, or use like the Cote pack or the in-game fuel tank to fill up here and then have it up at the farm. Alright, so in here we have our animal buy point and loose silage sell point. So if you want to buy your animals, you're gonna have, or your cows, you're gonna have to pretty much go right up close to this chute to get your cows. And then over here, this is where you can tip your loose silage in. And I want to show you the trigger from the side here. You see the box? So the box does not extend beyond the roof line. So if you want to sell silage, you're going to have to back in under this roof and tip in, or use like a side tipping trailer. So everything's been done intentionally on this map to make it less than easy. Let's just say that. So again, if you're a player that complains that hard mode is still too easy, it's too easy to make money, it's too easy to do this, too easy to do that. Starting a map is easy because you just sell all the equipment. You'd love for there to be a map where you didn't start with anything. Well, here you go. This is your map for you. So here we have the animal buy point, or not the animal buy point, the vehicle shop. You can roll on in here and hit the trigger. If you want to return or repair or sell anything, you've got to roll it into the shed. Okay. Let's take a look at the trigger. You see the trigger does not extend beyond the building. Alright, so if you want to sell something, you're going to have to go in the building. So if you've got a giant piece of machinery you can't get into here, well then I guess you're not going to sell it back at the shop. You're going to have to sell it from your vehicle menu, and you're not going to get the fullest price. So once you put something in there, you're going to have to come over here and hit the button at the counter to do your transaction. What's over there? Alright, let's go ahead and loop on around. So this exit is also an edit change to the map. Previously that didn't exist, that was walled off. So here's your bale. Since we are playing seasons, we assume we're playing with seasons on this map. Here's your bale sell point for straw, grass, and hay. And again, let's take a look at the trigger here. And you'll see it is inside the barn. It is not outside the barn. You're not going to roll up here with one of those auto-loading trailers and unload it outside the barn. You're going to have to go inside the barn. And if you've never unloaded an auto-load trailer inside the barn, one of the in-game ones, I strongly recommend it because it's quite funny. Over here is the main grain and crop sell point. So for your main grains, you're going to have to come in here and loop around, come up here and tip in. Okay, for your root crops, you need to come around here to the side, and this is where you'll tip in for your potatoes and sugar beets. Okay. And the last thing that we need to cover before we go with a nice aerial look at the map is the log sell point and the wood chip sell point, which is right up here. And this road does loop all the way around the map in a big circle. So you need to come in here, and this is where you will drop your logs to sell logs. And this is where you'll drop your wood chips to sell your wood chips. Alright, so that is basically a tour of the map. Now let's get a little bit of airtime with our cool little drone toy and take a look. So there's the co-op again. We've got our fuel. We've got our animal buy point there for our cows. We've got the barn for our hay and bale for basically our bale sell point. We have our, let's rotate around. We've got our crop sell point, and right below us we've got the equipment buy point. So right here, let's see, where am I? Where's the drone center? Okay. So up on the plateau, this is all the land that you own basically from the start. None of the fields are defined. None of the spaces are defined as fields. You see there is some clearings, some general clearings. But the general principle of this map is that this farm may have been abandoned, or maybe a better term would be maybe you're buying this from a elderly farmer that's just not been able to keep it up as much as he wanted. So that the trees and everything are kind of starting to encroach on his fields, and as a result of that, you're going to have to come in here and cut down your own trees to kind of define your field space. Let's go ahead and see if we can take a quick little trip around the roads. Let's get a little more altitude here. So here are some of the buyable properties. Again, you can see the trees. In general, the areas are cleared, but you could do a lot better job by clearing the trees once you own the land to basically maximize the land area. And again, as I said, there's a ton of free grass, if you will, all around the outer edge of the map. You just need to figure out how to get there. There is at least one way into that area. You just need to figure it out. So, if you're a type of player that finds hard mode just too easy, you know, you start a map with hard mode, you sell all your stuff, you end up with anywhere between $200,000 to $1 million worth or more in money because you've sold all the starting equipment, and pretty much you just go to town, and within 20 or 25 game hours, you're pretty bored because you've pretty much made all the money you're going to make on the map. Then I would strongly suggest that you try this map out. So I'm still new at this drone driving, so I've managed to completely drive off the map space. Let's see if we can get back over there. But at any rate, guys, give it a try. I know I'm going to be playing the map. I don't know if I'll be playing it online or just playing it in private, but I've been wanting to play this hard edit since I saw Mark DuPont do it. GrizzlyBearSims got a hold of the map, and he's been playing it, and I kind of wanted to give it a try and basically get a stab at making my own fields, get a stab at kind of making it my own, if you will. It's the way I see it is this map is pretty much a blank slate. You start out with some buildings. You start out with your cow animal husbandry zones and everything set up, and you've got all of this area that you can clear. Right here you can see there are kind of 3, maybe 4 defined spaces here on the map with respect to where you could plant things. Alright, so we're just going to leave the drone out there, let him figure out how to come back. So guys, I hope you like this map. If you do, let me know in the comments what you think. Let Old Guy Farmer know over at PCSG. That is the only official place to get the map. That is the official support area for the map. And until next time, happy farming.